I was less than 30 seconds from locking the door when I realized someone else had a key to my life. My name's Logan Price, and 6 years ago I worked the night shift at a tiny convenience store called Cornerglow Mart in a forgotten town off Route 41, a place called Marshfield Bend. It wasn't connected to a gas station, no big brand, just a tired brick box wedged between a closed laundromat and an auto shop that never had any cars in it. On paper, it was easy money. My shift ran from 7:00 p.m. to 3:00 a.m. Most nights I saw maybe 6 people total, usually in the first few hours. After midnight, it was solely individuals intoxicated, nurses returning home, or those with eyes that conveyed not to inquire further. I was 25, fresh off a breakup, and sleeping in a rented room above a retired mechanic's garage. The room smelled like old oil and mildew, but it was cheap, and they didn't ask how I was doing. Cornerglow Mart had ancient buzzing coolers, one camera above the counter that recorded to a half-dead DVR, and a door chime that sounded like someone dropping cutlery. The manager, Hector, only looked at the cameras if something went missing, which almost never happened. The first night he walked in, I thought it was a joke. It was a Wednesday, just after 12:15 a.m. I was behind the counter scrolling my phone, half listening to a true crime podcast when the door chime shrieked. I jumped hard enough to almost drop my phone. A man stepped in, or maybe slid is a better word. He moved slowly and deliberately, like every step was being tested before he took it. He wore a dark blue work coat, zipped all the way to his throat, even though it was late spring and the store was warm. And over his face he had one of those cheap plastic masks you usually see in discount bins around Halloween, white, blank, with a permanent little half smile and hollow eye holes. "We're open," I said, instantly hating how stupid that sounded. He didn't reply, just stood there 20 feet away, head tilted like he was listening to something behind me. "You okay, man?" I tried again. "Do you need anything?" He breathed through the mask, this slow, damp sound, but he didn't move. The buzzing from the cooler suddenly felt deafening. I tried to laugh it off. "You win creepiest customer of the night. Congrats." Still nothing. No laugh, no nod, just that blank white face pointed at me. After what felt like a full minute of silent staring, he finally turned his head, but not his body, and started walking down the aisle to the right. He didn't touch a single thing, didn't stop to look at chips, drinks, or anything. He walked all the way to the back, disappeared behind the soda fridge, and when I craned my neck to follow him around the corner, he was gone. No back door. There was no bathroom available. All I could see was the cooler wall and a pile of crates. I checked anyway, heart beating in my throat. Nothing. The door hadn't chimed again. I told myself I was tired, that maybe he had slipped past me somehow, and that my brain was filling in gaps. I locked up at 3, walked to my car behind the store with my keys between my fingers just in case, and went home. I didn't see him outside. That night I didn't see him outside. The next 2 shifts were normal enough that I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted. Until Friday. Friday at 2:58 a.m., I did my usual routine. Count the till, shut down the lottery terminal, and flip the sign to closed. I was reaching for the deadbolt when I noticed it, a shadow in the glass reflection behind me, off near the pumps that hadn't worked in years. Someone was standing across the empty lot, just outside the weak cone of the street lamp, white, mask white. I turned around so fast I stumbled. By the time my eyes adjusted to the dark, the figure was gone. I told myself it was nothing, drove home with my jaw clenched, and checked every mirror twice. The escalation came Saturday. I pulled into my usual spot behind the store, yawning, sipping a gas station coffee I didn't even like. My headlights swept across the dumpster, the cracked pavement, my parking space, and then I hit the brakes. There, propped neatly against the driver's side door of my car, was the same white mask, same little half smile, same empty eyes. I sat there for a solid minute, engine running, hands shaking on the wheel. Then I reversed back into the street, parked under the one working streetlight, and walked in the long way through the front. The mask stayed by my car the whole shift. Every time I glanced at the monitor that showed the back lot, it was there, this little oval of white waiting for me to leave. Around 1:00 a.m., I called Hector and told him someone had been messing around the lot. "You want me to call the cops?" he asked. "Can they do anything about someone wearing a mask?" He paused. Just keep the door locked between customers. I'll check the cameras tomorrow. At 3 in the morning, I made a choice I still regret. Instead of walking out back, I went rough the front, cut across the side alley, and approached my car from an angle. The mask was still there, leaning right against the handle like it had been waiting to be picked up. My hand shook as I lifted it. Inside, the cheap plastic was smeared with something dark. It smelled like metal. I dropped it so fast it bounced. I drove home with my windows up and every light inside the car blazing. The next evening, Hector met me at the store. He looked worn out. "Yeah, there was somebody," he said, gesturing to the tiny back office screen. Hard to see, but he put the mask there around 7:05. Then he just stood at the edge of the lot for like 10 minutes, staring at the camera. No plate on his car, couldn't see his face. "Mask?" I asked. He nodded. "Same one. Did you call the cops?" "They said unless he threatened you or tried to break in, it's just weird behavior. If you want to file a report, you can," but he trailed off. I didn't file. I should have. A week passed. Nothing happened. No weird customers, no masks, no figures in the lot. I started to relax. Then one stormy Tuesday, I came back from restocking the cooler and froze. The mask was on the counter right beside the register. I hadn't heard the door chime. I hadn't heard a car. It was just there. "I'm done," I whispered to myself. I grabbed the cordless phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. As it rang, I glanced up at the tiny security monitor. In the grainy grayscale feed from camera 3, pointing down aisle 2, there was a man standing at the very edge of the frame. Work coat, tall, still, the mask wasn't on his face. He was holding it at his side, looking up into the camera. The dispatcher picked up. 911, what's your emergency? "There's a man in my store," I said. "He's been stalking me. He left things in my car." The screen flickered. The monitor cut to static. I stepped backward until I hit the cigarette rack, the phone slick in my hand. There were no footsteps, no door chime, and no sound at all. "Sir, are you safe?" the dispatcher asked. I don't know," I whispered. The static cleared for half a second. The feed snapped back. "Empty aisle, no man, no mask." But when I looked down, the mask on the counter had been turned. The little half-smile was now facing the front door. That was my last night at Corner Glow Mart. I quit the next morning, dropped my keys on the counter, and didn't even wait for Hector to come in. I moved out of Marshfield Bend 2 weeks later. To this day, I still inspect my car before I get in. I always avoid parking in poorly lit lots, never undertake night shifts, and if I encounter anyone wearing a mask, whether for Halloween, a party, or any other reason, I promptly choose to walk in the opposite direction. Because some people don't wear masks to be funny. They wear them because they don't want you to recognize them when they come back. The first time a customer told me he could see me, I thought it was a glitch. The second time, I realized the glitch was in my life. My name is Harper Quinn, and in early 2021, I picked up a remote night shift job for an online furniture company called Home Nest Direct. It sounded perfect on paper: work from home, decent pay, no commute, just me, a headset, and a script. I lived alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in Grayford, a rainy city tucked somewhere between cheap and forgettable. My office was the corner of my bedroom. A cheap desk, a second-hand chair, a laptop balanced on a stack of old textbooks, and a headset that creaked when I adjusted it. From 8:00 p.m. to 1:00 a.m., I handled calls from angry people whose sofas arrived in the wrong shade of beige. Most nights I could go 20 minutes without a single call, just refreshing news sites or watching muted videos. That Thursday night, everything went sideways. It was around 10:40 p.m. I remember, because I had just pulled on my gray hoodie. The room always got colder at night, no matter how high I turned up the heat. The blinds behind me were half closed, leaving thin slits of darkness between the pale plastic slats. The notification popped up. Incoming call, masked ID standard. I clicked accept. Thank you for calling Home Nest Direct. This is Harper speaking. How can I help you tonight? Silence. Hello, can you hear me? Static hissed softly in my ear. Then a man's voice, low and breathy, like his mouth was too close to the mic. I can see you. I forced a chuckle. Sir, I think you might have the wrong number. This is customer support. A soft laugh trickled through my headset. It didn't sound natural. It sounded acted, like someone trying to imitate creepy and overshooting it. You're wearing a gray hoodie, he whispered. You should have chosen a different color for tonight. My fingers went cold on the desk. Okay, that's weird, I said carefully. Sir, do you have an order number? Or, I'm outside, he said. You really should keep your blinds closed all the way. I muted my mic, heart pounding, and slowly turned in my chair. The blinds behind me were mostly shut, yes, but there were gaps between the slats. Thin little lines where streetlight could filter in and maybe, just maybe, someone could see out, but my room lights were off. Only the laptop screen lit my face. There's no way, I whispered to myself. I unmuted. If this is a prank, I'm going to have to disconnect the call. He laughed again, harsher this time. Why don't you open your front door and check? Then he hung up. For 30 seconds, I didn't move. My headset sat crooked on my head, my breath coming in little shallow bursts. Finally, I ripped it off, stood up, and crept down the hallway of my apartment. The building was quiet, just the faint hum of someone's TV behind another door. I reached the front door and peered through the peephole. Empty hallway, no one. Bang, bang, bang. 3 sharp knocks shook the door inches from my face. I stumbled backward so fast I nearly fell. Whoever was on the other side didn't say a word. After a long moment, the knocking stopped. My personal phone was on the kitchen counter. I grabbed it with shaking hands and dialed 911. The dispatcher kept me on the line while she sent a patrol car. I double-checked the locks, slid the chain across, and backed away from the door. My headset was still on the desk in my room, slowly blinking as another call came in. Even while I was talking to the dispatcher, I heard it faintly from down the hall. Beep. Incoming call. Answer it, she said. I didn't, but I also didn't unplug it. The officers came, did a walk-through, and checked the hallway and the stairwell, even the parking lot behind the building. No one, no suspicious cars, no footprints in the light dusting of rain outside. Probably some idiot spoofing your work number and messing with you, one of them said. Keep your door locked. Call us if anything else happens. They left. The apartment felt smaller after that, the shadows thicker. I went back to my desk because the shift wasn't over and rent doesn't care about terror. I put the headset on. It connected with a soft click. Almost immediately, another masked ID call blinked onto the screen. I told myself it was coincidence. I told myself it was work. I answered. Thank you for calling. Why'd you call the cops, Harper? The breathy whisper slid straight into my skull. I didn't speak. I was having fun, he continued. You ruined it. I slammed end call and yanked the headset off. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear. I wrote a frantic email to my supervisor explaining the harassing calls, the unsafe situation, and the police report. The reply came back an hour later, bland and corporate. We're sorry to hear about your experience. Unfortunately, due to the masked routing system, we have no way of identifying individual caller locations. Please document all future incidents. I didn't finish the shift. I unplugged Everett. Hing shoved my desk against the window and slept on the couch with the TV on. For 3 nights nothing happened. No weird calls, no knocks. My shifts were blessedly boring again. Then Sunday came. Around 11:00 p.m. between normal order tracking calls, a new masked ID popped up. Same format, same generic label. My finger hovered over accept. This time I let it go to voicemail. When I checked the log later, my blood went cold. There was no voicemail, no duration. The system claimed the call had never connected, but I knew I'd heard the ring. I'd watched the notification flash. An hour later, my personal phone lit up on the couch beside me. Unknown number, area code from my own city. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hello? Breath on the line, slow, deliberate. I like the new curtains, he said. Blue suits you better than gray. I didn't have curtains, I had blinds. The next morning, when I finally worked up the courage to open my bedroom door and look, a pair of cheap blue curtains hung crookedly over the blinds. I hadn't put them there. I didn't even own curtains, that was enough. I quit that day, blocked every unknown number I could, changed my locks, and installed a peephole camera I can check from my phone. The company emailed a week later asking if I'd reconsider. Night shifts were hard to fill. I never wrote back. Sometimes, though, when I'm up late scrolling my phone with all the lights off, I'll get this crawling feeling between my shoulder blades, like someone is watching, and every once in a while my phone lights up with a notification I can't tap away fast enough. An unknown caller tried to reach you while Do Not Disturb was on. I don't answer, because the last thing I want to hear again is that breathy laugh and the quiet voice asking me why I ever thought I was safe in my own home. I was halfway through telling myself I didn't believe in ghosts when one left a wet footprint in front of me. My name is Jenna Morales, and the summer I turned 19, I took a night stalker job at a tiny grocery store called Larkridge Grocers in Eden Hollow, a small Midwestern town surrounded by fields and a patch of ugly woods. I wasn't supposed to be working that summer. I dropped out of my first year of college and told myself I needed time to figure things out. My mom called that running away. She knew the owner of Larkridge, a woman named Mrs. Porter, and pulled the classic mom move. They need help at night. I already told her you'd try it. My job was simple: come in at 9:15 p.m. after closing, mop the entryway and bathrooms, restock shelves, face products so everything looked neat. No customer, no supervisors hovering over me, just me, a checklist, and the humming lights. Honestly, it sounded perfect. The store itself was small. 4 main aisles, fridges along the back, and a tiny produce section that always smelled a little like wet cardboard. After closing, most of the lights were turned off to save electricity. Only the aisle lights and front windows stayed on. The first few shifts were fine, boring even. I'd put on my headphones, blast some music, and zone out while I stocked cereal and soup cans. Then came June 19th. It was hot that week, the air thick enough to chew. Larkridge's AC went into energy saver mode after closing, which meant the building slowly turned into a humid box. By 11:30 p.m. my shirt was stuck to my back and my hair was plastered to my neck. I had just finished mopping near the front when I heard it: footsteps, not the creak of the building or the compressor kicking on, actual footsteps, slow and measured, from somewhere near aisle 3. I paused my music and pulled one earbud out. Step, step, step. Hello, I called. The store's closed. No answer. The footsteps stopped abruptly, like whoever it was had frozen when I spoke. I grabbed the little mag light we kept under the front counter, meant for power outages, not intruders, and walked toward the aisles. Aisle 1, chips and snacks. Empty. Aisle 2, canned goods. Empty. Aisle 3, baking supplies and spices. Empty. I checked the bathroom, locked, the back door still bolted. By the time I'd done a full loop, I was mostly annoyed with myself. "You're jumpy," I muttered. "It's just the building." Back to work. About 20 minutes later, stocking napkins in the paper goods section, I heard it again. Footsteps. This time is behind me. I spun around so fast my neck cracked. "No one, seriously," I snapped at the empty air. "If this is some kind of joke." Silence. That's when I saw it. On the cream-tiled floor right at the end of aisle 4, where the light didn't fully reach, was a single wet footprint, bare, human, clear enough that I could see the arch and toes. But the floor was bone dry. No puddle, no trail, just one perfect, wet print. The mop nearly slipped from my hands. I should have left, called Mrs. Porter, called the cops, called my mom. Instead, I did what every idiot in every horror story does. I convinced myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone tracked something in earlier. Maybe I hadn't noticed. Maybe I was freaking myself out. I finished the shift in a hurry, eyeing that footprint every time I passed the end of the aisle. It never evaporated. It stayed glossy and wet until I finally swiped it away with the mop just before leaving. The next night, June 20th, everything escalated. Around 12:45 a.m., I was in the back stockroom sorting cases of soda when I heard something heavy shift in the hallway outside. One step, then another. then a slow, dragging sound, like someone's foot sliding across the floor. I swallowed hard and forced my voice not to shake. "You're not supposed to be in here," I called. "We're closed. I'll call the police." No answer. I edged toward the doorway and peeked out. At the far end of the hallway, near the door that led to the walk-in fridge, stood a man tall and thin, with clothes hanging off him like they were a size too big. His hair was a matted mess, his skin pale and stretched over sharp cheekbones. He didn't move. He just stared at me. "Sir, you can't be back here," I said, gripping the flashlight so tight my knuckles hurt. He didn't respond. "Look, I'll unlock the front door, but you have to go now." He turned without a word and walked around the corner toward the front of the store. Relief flooded me until I rounded the corner. 10 seconds later, he was gone. The front door is still locked. No chime, no sound. I did a full sweep of the store, then the back room, then the tiny employee's bathroom. Nothing. By the time I called the non-emergency police line, my hands were shaking. They sent an officer. He checked everything, shining his flashlight into every corner. "Nobody's here now," he said, finally. "Could have been someone who hid before closing. You work alone?" "Yeah." He looked like he wanted to say maybe. "Don't," but he just nodded instead. "Call us if you see him again." I didn't want to come back the next night, but rent doesn't care about haunted grocery stores. On June 21st, I arrived to find Mrs. Porter waiting for me. "Rough night?" she asked. I told her everything: the footsteps, the footprint, the man in the hallway. She listened silently, her lined face unreadable. When I finished, she sighed. "You should have called me sooner," she said. "You're not the first night stalker to hear things." I stared at her. "Excuse me. There was a break-in here years ago," she said quietly. "Back when my husband was still alive. A man came in after closing and hid in the store. The night stalker never saw him until, well, he didn't make it." My throat went dry. Why am I only hearing this now? She gave a helpless little shrug. "Kids need work. Stores need stocking. Most people don't have a problem." Most people. That night, the store felt different from the moment I stepped in. Heavier. Colder. Around 1:00 a.m., the lights flickered, then cut it out completely. The emergency strips kicked in, casting the aisles in dim orange. The hum of the coolers dropped to a low, rumbling drone, and somewhere close, footsteps started again, not slow this time, not testing, coming straight toward me. I didn't wait to see from where. I dropped my scanning gun, bolted for the front door, fumbled with the locks, and stumbled into the hot summer night. The automatic parking lot lights flared on overhead, blindingly bright. Behind me, inside the dark store, pressed up against the glass, a pale face stared out. The man, his eyes were wrong, too dark, too wide, and his mouth was stretched into a strange, almost curious smile. He raised one hand and slowly dragged his fingers down the inside of the glass, leaving a trail of wet, perfect handprints behind. I didn't watch the rest. I ran to my car, tires screaming as I shot out of the lot. I never went back to Larkridge Grocers. My mom called me a quitter. Mrs. Porter left me 2 voicemails asking if I'd reconsider. I never answered. Sometimes, when I'm shopping late, if I hear footsteps in an empty aisle or see a single wet footprint on a dry floor, I leave my cart and walk out. Groceries can wait. Because whatever stayed behind at Larkridge isn't interested in food. It just wants someone to work nights with it. If you've ever worked the night shift at a highway gas station, you already know this truth. It's not the dark that scares you. It's what the dark lets in. My name is Evan Clark, and when I was 23, I took the overnight job at a lonely gas station called High Ridge Fuel Stop, a flickering, half-forgotten station off Highway 72, about 40 minutes outside a nowhere town called Hollow Creek. It wasn't a chain, not even close. The station consisted of just 2 old pumps, a tiny convenience shop, and a parking lot that seamlessly blended into cornfields and woods, seemingly abandoned after midnight. The store ran on skeleton staff. 1 employee per shift. My shift, 10:00 p.m. to 6:00 a.m., the graveyard of graveyard shifts. Most nights were calm. A couple long-haul truckers grabbing coffee, the occasional drunk kid needing snacks, and sometimes nobody for hours. You get used to the stillness, the hum of the lights, the thump of the old cooler, and the sound of your own breathing. But on nights when the fog rolled in thick off the fields, the station felt cut off from the world. Like being inside a snow globe someone forgot to shake, and one of those nights changed me forever. 1:13 a.m. The first wrong thing, I was behind the counter, flipping through a dog-eared magazine when the pumps flickered on. That shouldn't happen. Pumps only activate when someone picks up the nozzle. I looked up. Through the fogged window, I could barely see past pump 6, the farthest one, the one whose light had been dying for weeks. Then I saw him. A man stood at pump 6. His posture was tall and rigid, head angled slightly downward, no car beside him, just him standing alone in the cold, holding the gas nozzle like he had something to fill. Only there was nothing there, no vehicle, no motorcycle. There was not even a single lawnmower in sight. I leaned forward, pressing my hand against the glass. "Sir," I called out through the slightly cracked door. "You all right out there?" He didn't move. Fog curled around him like fingers. The pump light flickered again. Then I noticed something worse. The pump wasn't counting gallons, wasn't ticking, wasn't registering anything at all. But he held the nozzle like fuel was flowing straight into the dirt. My skin prickled. I stepped outside a little. The cold hit me like a slap. "Sir, we're closed for outside service if you need assistance." The man slowly turned his head toward me. He didn't move his body. His head was the only part of him that was facing me. His expression was akin to an owl adjusting its gaze. The pump light briefly brightened, and his face wasn't right. It was pale in a way skin shouldn't be, pale, not white, but colorless, like there was no blood beneath it. Eyes are too dark and hollow. Clothes soaked, clinging to his frame as if he'd climbed out of a river. I stepped back, instinct screaming. He didn't move, just stared. He was gripping the nozzle firmly. Then the pump suddenly shut off. Click, I flinched. By the time I blinked, he was gone, just gone. No footsteps. There was no sign of a disappearing silhouette, nothing. The nozzle swung lightly on the pump, dripping something dark, water, oil, I couldn't tell, but it didn't smell like gasoline. I ran inside, locking the door behind me. 2:07 a.m. The second wrong thing, I checked the security monitor. Pump 6 was empty, good, but then I saw it. A wet handprint was visible on the inside of the glass door inside. It was right where I had just been standing. I scrambled back, heart pounding. I hadn't heard the door open. I hadn't heard the chime. I hadn't heard anything. And the print wasn't small. It was long, thin, spread out like a man whose fingers were too long for his hand. I wiped it with a tissue, and the tissue came away black like soot mixed with water. 2:44 a.m. He comes back. The fog thickened until I couldn't see the pumps at all. It felt like the station was floating in nothing. Then tap, tap, tap. I nearly screamed. Someone was tapping on the glass from the right side of the store. Slow, deliberate taps. I forced myself to peek around the corner and found nothing. No one was there. Only a swirling fog was present. Then tap, tap, tap. The sound came from behind me. I spun around. The man from pump 6 stood outside the front door, closer, much closer, his head tilted too far like he didn't understand how necks worked. His clothes were wetter now, dripping. He poured the water onto the concrete. He raised one hand and pressed it against the glass. Another handprint, another smear of that dark, watery substance. His mouth opened slowly like he was trying to speak, but only a gurgling sound came out, a wet, choking rasp. I backed away, stumbling over my feet. "Sir, I'm calling the police." He didn't react. He remained silent, not responding to my voice. He didn't respond to anything. Then he dropped something. The item he dropped was a car key, just one. It hit the ground with a metallic ping. He slowly turned away and walked toward pump 6 again, disappearing into the fog. That was enough. I grabbed the store phone and dialed 911 3:02 a.m. The call, 911. "What's your emergency?" "There's a man here. He's not right. He keeps appearing. He dropped a key." "A key, sir? Describe it." I looked out. The key was gone. I swear it was just there. "Has the man threatened you?" "No, but is he armed?" "No." "Is he damaging property?" "No, but something is wrong. He's soaked. He's not normal." A pause. "Then, sir, is this the High Ridge station?" "Yes." Another pause. Longer. "Stay inside. Do not approach him." What? Why? Just stay inside. Officers are on the way. Her tone had changed, soft, careful. She spoke as if she was addressing a victim who was already in danger. I hung up, breathing hard. 3:11 a.m. The fog thinned suddenly as if pushed aside. Pump 6 came into view. The man was gone, but now I saw something else, something I hadn't noticed before. Next to Pump 6 was a small wooden board, the kind used for roadside memorials. The flowers were long dead. The picture was faded by the sun. A candle melted into a lump. A laminated note hung crookedly. In loving memory of Daniel Reeves. Daniel Reeves passed away here on February 12, 2016. My skin crawled. I stepped closer to the window. The photo showed a tall man in a dark jacket, shaved head, serious eyes, looked exactly like— I didn't finish the thought, because right then the station door behind me rattled, hard enough to shake the frame. I whirled. He was there. He was inside the store. He was present in aisle 2, dripping, watching me. There was no door chime, no sound, just him, impossibly inside. I didn't think. I ran to the back room, slammed the employee door, locked it, and pressed my weight against it. He didn't chase me, didn't grab the door, didn't bang. He only whispered, through the thin metal, through the fog in my head, through the pounding of my blood, "I need a ride." My heart dropped. The key. He wanted someone to take him. Maybe he used to drive. Maybe he died wanting help, or maybe he died wanting company. When the police arrived, lights flashing through the fog, the man was gone. No footprints, no residue, no key, nothing. The scent of wet lake water lingered near the pumps. I quit the next morning. I drive out of my way to avoid Highway 72 now. I don't stop at stations after midnight. And if I ever see a man standing beside an empty pump, dripping, waiting, watching, I won't slow down. I refuse to slow down, not even for a moment. Because some people don't want gas, they want to ride back to where they never made it. Some places don't feel empty at night. Some places feel occupied. Even when you're the only one with a pulse, some places still feel occupied. My name is Colton Reeves, and 5 years ago I took the worst night shift job of my life. A temporary caretaker position at a mountain lodge called Pine Shadow Retreat, deep inside the forests of North Falls Ridge. I was broke, living out of a borrowed room and willing to take anything that paid cash. The job posting said, quiet nights, light cleaning, good pay. The lodge has 3-4 guests max, perfect for night owls. Night owls, if only they knew how literal that would become. The lodge nobody used anymore. Pine Shadow Retreat sat 4 miles up a twisting dirt road, past dead pines and fog that climbed the windshield like frost. The building itself was old, too old, wood paneling warped from decades of storms, windows fogged even from the outside. When I arrived for orientation, the manager, Earl Maddox, met me at the front desk. The tall, wiry, gray ponytail, smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "You're the new night guy?" he asked. "That's me." "Good, just stay inside after dark, don't wander the grounds." It was a strange rule, but I nodded. Rules are rules, and I needed the job. He left an hour later, saying he'd return at 7 a.m. sharp. That part turned out to be a lie. Night 1, when the phone rang, I settled behind the dusty front desk at 12:32 a.m., flipping through channels on an old TV that only got 3 stations. The 4 guests Earl claimed were staying there kept to their rooms. Not a sound from upstairs. Then the lodge phone rang. I nearly jumped out of the chair. "Pine Shadow Retreat," I answered, breathing. My breathing was slow and heavy, then a voice so faint I thought it was static. "You shouldn't be here." I slammed the phone down, heart pounding. I checked the guest log. No one had requested a wake-up call. No one had asked for anything. The hallway behind me creaked. There was a single, slow footstep behind me. I whipped around. Nothing there, just the old wooden staircase and the flickering sconce lights. Night 2 power outage 11:58 p.m. Lights flickered once, twice, then the whole lodge went black. Emergency lights kicked in, dim red strips along the floorboards, barely enough to see. The air felt different, heavy. It felt as if the building was taking a deep breath. I grabbed a flashlight and headed upstairs. Halfway up, I heard it. A man's voice echoed down the hall, low, hoarse. "I see you." I whipped the flashlight toward the sound, but the beam hit nothing, just an empty hallway, yet the voice had been right beside me. I checked every room: 103, 105, 108, 110 empty. All 4 rooms are empty. No luggage, no jackets, no toiletries. There were no guests in the lodge. There was not a single guest in the lodge. So who was Earl talking about yesterday? I went back downstairs to grab my phone. I came to a sudden halt. Someone was sitting behind the front desk. A man, head bowed, hands folded on the counter. But he wasn't moving, not breathing, not reacting. I took a step back, stomach twisting. Then the figure slowly lifted its head. Its face was wrong. Paper white, eyes too sunken, jaw slightly unhinged. I blinked, and the chair was empty. My flashlight flickered out. Night 3, Earl's lie. I decided to wait for Earl. He was supposed to arrive at 7 a.m., 7:10, 7:30, 8:00. He never showed. I called his number. Disconnected. By noon, I'd made up my mind to quit. But the cash envelope for my week's pay sat behind the desk. I grabbed it, stuffed it into my pocket, and left. But curiosity is a curse. I drove to the sheriff's office in North Falls Ridge, Pine Shadow Retreat. The deputy asked when I mentioned the lodge. "That place burned down in 2018. I froze. "What? It's been shut for years. There are no staff members or guests present. You must be mistaken." "No, I worked there last night." The deputy frowned. "Son, that building is condemned. If you went inside, you were trespassing. And you sure as hell weren't with staff." I felt the world tilt. "What about Earl?" "Earl Maddox." The deputy blinked. "Maddox died in that fire. His body was the only one they found. There was only one body found." "What about the guests?" I whispered. The deputy shook his head. "They never found them. Night 4, my last shift. I should have run then, should have thrown my phone in the river, left town, and never looked back. But fear makes people stupid. I returned that night not to work, but to get answers." The lodge stood exactly as before, lights on. The TV was buzzing behind the desk, staircase flickering, like it had been waiting for me. I stepped inside, the floor groaning under my weight. "Earl," I called, voice trembling. Something creaked upstairs, footsteps, slow, heavy. I made my way towards the staircase. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." A figure appeared at the top railing, tall, shoulders hunched, skin stretched too tight over bones. Not Earl. There was no one in the room. It stepped forward. It made its way down one stair, then another. I ran. I bolted out the door. I ran into cold mountain air, down the dirt path toward my car. A voice whispered behind me, "You're the last one." I didn't look back, not once. Aftermath. By sunrise, I was halfway to another state. I threw away the lodge key, the cash, and even my name badge. I didn't report it, didn't tell anyone else. Because who would believe me? The lodge still appears on old maps, people say. And sometimes hikers swear they see lights flickering deep in the trees at night. The Pine Shadow Retreat is abandoned, condemned. The retreat has been completely destroyed, yet someone, something still keeps the night shift there. We are eagerly anticipating the arrival of the next caretaker. And if you ever see a job posting that promises quiet nights, easy work, Pine Shadow Retreat, delete it. Don't apply, don't even think about it. The last sound I heard in that place was not footsteps, it was a whisper, "You're next." There's a different kind of silence inside office buildings at night, not peaceful, not empty. It feels like the building is listening. My name is Miles Carter, and 3 years ago I worked the night maintenance shift for a mid-sized corporate office called Brightstone Systems, located in a dead industrial park outside Mason Ridge, Iowa. I took the job because it paid better than warehouse shifts and didn't require talking to anyone. My hours were 8:00 p.m. to 12:00 a.m. Monday through Friday. Easy routine: empty, trash wipe, desks restock, restrooms vacuum. The conference rooms for the first 2 weeks, it felt almost relaxing. The hum of old fluorescent bulbs, the quiet creak of vents. I'd listen to music, take my time, and enjoy the solitude. But on the third week, Tuesday night, everything changed. The phone that shouldn't be ringing at 9:18 p.m. I was dusting the long oak conference table in room 204 when I heard the front desk phone begin to ring downstairs. That shouldn't have happened. No one was in the building after 6:00 p.m. Everyone used work cell phones. Nobody ever called the landline. The phone rang again and again, 5 times total. I ignored it the first 4 times, but the 5th one got under my skin. I headed to the front desk, wiping my hands on a rag. The little caller ID screen glowed. Unknown call. I hovered. Something in my gut told me not to answer. The phone stopped ringing. I exhaled. Then it started again, louder somehow, sharper. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Brightstone Systems, this is Miles. Silence, just the soft hiss of a deadline. Then a voice, deep, calm, too close to the microphone. Why did you ignore the first 4 calls, Miles? My blood ran cold. Who is this? I said, voice tight. You shouldn't be here, the voice said. It's almost time. Click, the line died. I slowly set the handset down. My hands were shaking. Someone used the keycard. I tried to shrug it off, convinced myself I was being paranoid, and went upstairs to the break room to pour coffee. As I stood near the counter, stirring powdered creamer into a flimsy paper cup, the silence broke. Beep, the sound echoed through the building. The sound the main entrance makes when someone scans a keycard. I froze. I didn't have a keycard. Only day staff did. Maintenance workers like me had metal keys. Jean, I called out to the night security guard who usually did patrols around midnight. No answer. Jean, are you there? Nothing. Then the door downstairs opened, soft thud, and closed. Someone was in the building. I set the cup down slowly. The lights flickered overhead. That building was old, but tonight the flicker felt intentional, like someone dimming the lights by hand. Footsteps echoed up the main hallway, slow, steady, purposeful. The man at the bottom of the stairs. I stepped toward the stairwell that overlooked the ground floor. A figure stood 5 feet from the bottom step, not moving, not shifting weight, just standing. He wore dark work clothes, sleeves rolled up, and a gray hoodie underneath. His head was down, chin tucked, like he was staring at the floor. Sir, the building's closed, I said, trying to sound confident. If you need help, security can. He lifted his head slowly. I stopped breathing. His face was wrong. 2 pale eyes, dark and wide, like someone who hadn't blinked in years. In his right hand, he held something long and thin, a knife. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the break room threshold. My voice cracked. Security is on the way. I already called them. He didn't move. Then he took 1 step forward. I bolted into the break room, slammed the door, and quietly locked it. My heart hammered so loud I was sure he could hear it. 911 doesn't believe you until they do. I crouched behind the vending machine and dialed 911. The dispatcher, a woman, answered instantly. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in the building, I whispered. He has a knife. He came in with a key card. What's your location, sir? Brightstone Systems, Industrial Park D. She kept her voice calm. Stay hidden. Officers are en route. Footsteps began moving down the hallway outside the break room. Not hurried, just slow, like he had all the time in the world. Then tap, 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 knuckles rapped against the break room door. Miles, he said in a low, distorted voice, why are you hiding? The lights flickered. The air felt too thin. Stay on the line, the dispatcher said. Officers are almost there. The tapping stopped. Silence swallowed the hallway. Then the main entrance opened again. Police, a man shouted downstairs. I ran out of the break room and down the stairs 2 at a time, breath ragged. A tall officer with a beard rushed toward me, hand on his holster. He's upstairs, he had a knife. Stay here, the officer said, and swept the halls. I stood at the bottom of the stairwell, gripping the rail, waiting for them to bring the guy out in cuffs. 5 minutes passed. 10, the officer returned, face pale. There's no one here, he said. No, I insisted. He was just, we checked every office. See, every cubicle, every restroom. Nothing. My stomach dropped. Check the cameras, please. He hesitated, then followed me to the security room. We rewound the feed to 9:18 p.m. The first call, then at 9:40 p.m. The keycard beeped. When the footage loaded, the officer's expression changed. There he was, clear as day. A man in dark clothes entering with a keycard, walking down the hall, standing at the bottom of the stairs, knife in hand. Then something else, something that made my knees weaken. At exactly 9:55 p.m., the man turned to look directly at the camera and smiled. His mouth moved, forming silent words. The officer leaned closer. "What's he saying?" I whispered. On the grainy feed, the man's lips shaped the phrase, "Almost time." Then the figure walked out the front door just seconds before the police cruiser pulled into the lot. How the hell did he know we were coming? The officer muttered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Aftermath: I quit the next morning. Brightstone Systems tried to convince me to stay, said it must have been a disgruntled ex-employee and that security was being tightened. But I knew better. That felt like more than an intruder, more than a trespasser. Whoever he was, he knew my name, he knew my routine, he knew the police arrival time. And worst of all, when the officer secured the scene, he found no keycard, no footprints, no fingerprints, not even dust was disturbed. It was like the man existed only inside the feed and inside my shift. I work daytime now, crowded places, bright places, places where shadows don't stretch across empty cubicles. Because when I'm alone too long, I can still hear that soft electronic beep, keycard scanned, door unlocked, and sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I swear I see someone standing just beyond the stairwell rail, waiting for the next night shift.